Welcome back to Trekking in Politics, folks. Thanks for joining me here. I want to bring you this video, and I want this video to be the biggest video I've ever done on this channel. We'll wait and see how it works out. It's hard for me to guess sometimes what videos do good, which ones do bad. A lot of people say it's because of the thumbnail, because of the headline. I don't know. Whatever catches people's eyes, really, is what brings viewership to a video. This channel is called Trucking in Politics, and I named it that for a reason. For one, I'm a truck driver. Two, I am not a politician. But I see how politics has affected trucking. And it has affected the United States. I want to put a chart up here. I came across this chart a long time ago. I want to put the chart up here and let you take a minute to look at it. At first, I just glanced at the chart and I went on, and I didn't really think that much about it. And I kept going back to the chart, looking at it. As you know, if you've watched this channel for some time at all, you know that I have talked about the rot in trucking, the rot in the United States. People feel it. You know, they feel it with this administration. A lot of people out there you talk to, they will say the general public is oblivious to what's going on until it comes knocking on their door, and then they change their mind. When it hits home, it changes their mind. We are seeing inflation in the United States like no other. No other time has inflation been this bad. Something that I did this week was I took a trip up to Pennsylvania, and I just came back from that trip, and I'm doing this video. Something that I noticed was there was a different atmosphere, a different feel in Pennsylvania. I have been there so many times in my trucking career, but it felt different. There was Trump signs everywhere. There was American flags everywhere. The sky was clear, and it was just a more beautiful state. Everywhere I went, it looked like all of the lawns had just been mowed, like that day. It was just a beautiful state. I took a lot of footage with my GoPro, and I'll put that footage up in another video. And I thought, what is going on with our country? What is changing? What is different? What is bad and what is good? And I was thinking about this, and I put a community post up. What is good and bad? What is good and bad about trucking? And I had a few people answer that question. I want to start from the start with this chart and explain why it is so important. This chart started about 1700, right after, late 1700s, right after we won the War of Independence. And you can see how we came out of debt because we were in debt to France for the war. In case a lot of people don't know that, France helped finance the war of our independence from England. We paid that debt back to France. They gave us the Statue of Liberty. We started what was called an industrial revolution. And it was the start of the birth of the greatest country that ever existed. A lot of people get it wrong because they don't think about what has happened in the history. They just look at what's here and now. Like I said, a lot of people don't think about bad stuff because we have it so good here in the United States. They don't think about bad stuff. They're oblivious to it. They don't even want to consider bad stuff until it comes knocking on their door. And like I said, it's very obvious what's going on right now. And everyone wants to blame the Biden administration. Now, I will agree with that. The Biden administration has not helped at all. But in his defense, in his administration's defense, just a little bit, all of this is not his fault. This has been coming for a long time. What has happened is an internal battle in the United States between two things: capitalism and corruption. Any time that you have a lot of money flowing, you're going to have corruption. People are going to say, I want a bigger piece of that pie. And I want to pay you so I can get a bigger piece of that pie. The United States was built on the rejection of that, to where everybody is free and everybody is on a level playing field. Everybody has a fair chance. Somewhere along the line of the United States, we have lost that value. It is so apparent in trucking that we have lost that. Trucking is owned and controlled by corporations, by Wall Street. It's true. A long time ago, back when trucking started, it started out very simply with probably like a man with a mule and a flatbed of some sort. A flatbed with wheels on it, moving grain or something for a farmer. And then it started evolving and it became commercialized. And a lot of people get that word wrong too. They think commercialized means corruption. No. You can be commercialized. You can go out and buy your own truck and your own trailer, and you should have a fair shot, just as good of a shot, a success as the largest corporation in trucking. But that's not true, because we have corruption. Each step of this chart has been a step in the wrong direction for capitalism and a right step for corruption. This chart shows the debt held by the public. And what does that mean? Like our houses and our cars and our credit cards? No. That's a small part of it, but that's not what that chart is about. What that chart is about is the money that is spent by the government that the government wants individuals to pay back. That's where corruption shows through on this chart, because our government has abandoned individualistic goals and sold them off to corporations. Corporations come first before all others. And that's not the way it should be at all. Our government has sold us out. They have taken our manufacturing jobs, shipped them overseas for cheaper labor, and wanted to bring the products back here and sell them at the same price. And the government has allowed corporations to do that. That's not fair. That's not fair. Think of it this way. If I and a couple of friends wanted to start a retail store right now and say we're going to put Target or Walmart out of business with our retail store, don't you think that would be a little hard for us to do? It would be almost impossible. Think about trucking. If myself and a couple of friends wanted to start a trucking company and we wanted to be the largest trucking company in the United States, don't you think that would be a little hard for us to do? It would be almost impossible. But the corporations reign supreme. Why? Because of Wall Street. Because of Wall Street, because of corporation greed, and them paying off our federal government through this group called lobbyists. Lobbyists take money from corporations, they hand it to the federal government, and they say, pass these laws that makes it impossible for us to fail. And the government takes their money. And then they turn around and say, through this chart, it's your fault that the United States is failing. You as individuals are not working hard enough. You're not paying your fair share. A long time ago when I started truck driving, there was W9s and Peterbilt 379s everywhere all over the United States. Small trucking companies, independents, the little guys, they reigned supreme. Right after that, it started breaking down and started getting on shaky ground. Then Bill Clinton started the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. And the whole intent of that was to even farther push down the independent and the owner-operator truck driver and to give even more power to these corporate trucking companies. And all federal agencies are like that. We are at a point right now in United States politics, we are at a point in the United States, period, we're at a crossroads. We can go one or two ways. We can keep going the way that it's going, just like this chart projects. We can keep taking the blame while the government keeps taking the money from the lobbyists and giving to the corporations that gives our jobs overseas, and they are just swimming in money. Or we can bring it back to the independents and the owner-operators and the small businesses. And you say, how do we do that? How do we change it? Folks, I'm really not a political person. I'm really not. I'm not really in favor of Democrat or Republican. I'm neutral. I don't really care either way. I don't care if you are a Democrat or you are a Republican. I don't care. What I see is right versus wrong. I see capitalism versus corruption. And what I see that has happened in the United States is a constant downgrading of people and their core values and their core worth. And I see a rise of the corporations and a rise in political corruption. And a person that I see that has stood up and wanted to change that wanted to change the course of trucking and politics, is Donald Trump. And you can disagree with me all you want to. or you can agree with me. But if we keep going the way that we're going now, look at the chart. If we keep going the way that we're going now, and we keep spending the money and giving the money to these corporations and letting them get bigger and bigger and bigger and shipping our jobs overseas, what are we going to have to move in trucking? Nothing. Back in the early days, there was two men, Charles Dow and Edward Jones. You may have heard of these people. They were financial gurus, and they started a publication called the Wall Street Journal. I think they had good intentions back then. They had good intentions for building the United States, to have a financial epicenter to where people could get their information and they could build wealth in the United States. One of the things that they came up with was they had several theories, and one of the theories that they come up with was manufacturing cannot exist without transportation. And it's just common sense. You can build anything you want, a box, a sweater, any type of clothing or shoes, a tire, whatever the product is that you build in your manufacturing facility. It does no good to build it unless you have a way to transport it to retail sales. That's where trucking comes along. Trucking moves 75% of the United States products. If all of our products are not made here, they're made overseas and shipped here, we don't really have that much need for transportation. You see it with the big corporations. Right now, all you have to do is go stand beside of a train track somewhere, and you see all the containers coming across the train crossings that is filled with products that are made in China and other countries. They are shipped across the United States into rail yards. They are moved from those rail yards to a warehouse or a retail store. That over-the-road trucking is dying. It is dying along with our manufacturing, and it is dying along with the United States. We cannot sustain this. We cannot sustain the debt. We cannot we cannot sustain the corruption. Trucking will fail. If trucking fails, the United States fails. Where are you going to work? What are you going to transport? What will you go buy? Because there will not be nothing to be bought. If you don't have jobs and you can't make money, it is just like this Dow Jones theory. Without transportation, there's no manufacturing. Without jobs, there's no retail. The economy collapses. And these people that have changed our capitalism to corruption don't care. They don't care because they think we'll get ours anyway. We'll just leech off of what's brought in from overseas, from another country. That'll eventually fail too. The United States was the start We were the beginning of capitalism. If it ends, everything ends. This is why this election is so crucial. That's why it is being talked about so much. That's why it is so over the top more than any other election. A lot of people mistrust Trump. They don't like him. They think that he's out to destroy the United States. I see through it. I see the United States has already basically been destroyed. The country's bankrupt. We, right now, look at the chart again. We are right now almost even with World War II. And at World War II, we were 100% of GDP. We're almost 100% now. When you look at what is forecasted for the future, it's going to go straight up to over 200%. We can't sustain that. This stuff has got to end now. We have got to get the corruption out of the United States. We have to. We absolutely have to get the corruption out of the United States. We have to bring manufacturing back to the United States. All of the jobs basically in the United States are just service-oriented jobs. That's it. They're not manufacturing jobs. They're service-oriented jobs. We're going to have to roll our sleeves up and go back to work. We're going to have to rebuild the United States. The only way to do that is to do what we did in 1776. We're going to have to rebuild the government. The house is dirty and it needs to be cleaned. The only way we can do that is to elect somebody that is willing to do that. This current administration is not willing to do it. They're totally fine with the United States just collapsing. They're totally fine with that. They say, well, who cares if China takes over? Who cares if China is the dominant one in the world? Well, we all should be. All of us should be. If we want a future for trucking, if we want a future for the United States, everyone is going to have to get behind someone that is wanting a change. And I really don't think, like I said, I am really not a political person. I'm really not. I just see where it's going, and I see that we have to change. We have to. And it has to be a drastic, hard change. We have been going down the wrong path at least 25 or 30 years. We have to go a different direction. We are at a crossroads. The election is coming up, and you need to make up your mind. Do you want this collapse? Do you want more of this same? Or do you want an absolute change that is going to go on for years? I think we need the change. Thanks for watching.